here on the IDP Plus YouTube channel. I've got a couple of special guests with me, our data cruncher, strongman behind the scenes, and then we've also got a power hitter as well that you guys are probably familiar with. So sit tight in just a sec. We're going to get into some offense plus IDP fantasy football mock draft. Welcome back to the IDP Plus YouTube channel. I'm sure if you guys have been here before, you recognize me. I'm your host, Axton Harding. You can find me on Twitter at AxmanIDP. But today I am not alone. I've got a couple of special guests. We've got the numbers guy, a guy who's kind of been the unsung hero behind the scenes, crunching all the numbers for the website at idpplus.com. He keeps everything data-driven, running on the web, keeps everything up to date. So first here to introduce, I've got Richard Latham of IDP Plus, our data analyst guy, keeping everything humming behind the scenes. How we doing?
Hey, I'm the data guy. Nice to be a part of this. Excited for the discussion.
Right on, right on. We also have our big hitter I referred to earlier, Johnny freaking F1, Johnny Christoffi. How you doing, my man?
I'm great. Ready to talk some linebackers, defensive backs, and wide receivers at the same time. This is gonna be fun, unique.
Absolutely. Well, the way we're going to do it this week, I guess this week, in this show, we've kind of based uh, our mock draft around a redraft mock draft. We've combined offense and IDP, and we start 9 offense, 9 defense. We even went 24 rounds deep. We're not going to go 24 rounds deep here. We're only going to go 2 shows here. So we're going to go one show where we go rounds 1 through 10, go through the rounds. We'll talk about our pick, our mindsets around there, and add any kind of context to favorites or talk about controversial picks or something like that. And then in the next show, we'll hit 11 to 20. So without further ado, let's jump right into the mock draft and get it going. And we will start off with round 1. Johnny actually drafted from the 2 slot. We got to choose our slots, and we even brought some guys from the industry and some subscribers, some fans, people in Gary's leagues. If you haven't checked that out, I think there still might be an opportunity for him to maybe open some leagues as well. So go ahead and check out Gary Van Dyke's Twitter for information on that. But we've gathered some people from that. We've got a couple of industry guys as well in this mock draft. So it's a live draft, real people who were making all of these picks. So Johnny picked at 2, I picked at 9, and Richard picked at 10 to round out the end of this thing. So let's jump right into it. For round 1, off with a Jamar Chase, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, Justin Jefferson at 104, CD Lamb at 105, Saquon Barkley, Brock Bowers, Josh Allen, the first quarterback off the board at 108, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Ashton Jeanty to round it out. So, Johnny, why don't you take us through your pick here at Gibbs at the 102? He's often one of those first few guys coming off the board. Kind of give us your mindset on kind of running back here early.
So I'll tell you, this year, I think I'm gonna basically in all my drafts, kind of how I'm gonna hunt it out is look for running backs. I mean, the wide receivers, there's 2, 3, should be good receivers, playable receivers on most given teams. So I wanted to hit the running back position, even though this league had a lot of flexibility with the 3 WRT spots. And it was just simply down to Gibbs or Bijan. Those two are kind of interchangeable to me. I was twisted on both, so I could be here sitting here talking about Bijan, but Gibbs was ultimately the chose. Just the combined rushing and receiving capabilities. I don't think the usage is going to go down. I think the fact that even that they have Montgomery, that's fine. Look at what Montgomery did the past few years. He's done well too. He's not far down on this board, so I'm not shied away because he's kind of a running back by committee there. Just elite status, and those big touchdown games that we saw towards the end of last season into the playoffs, I think cements his status here. And anywhere from this 1 to 6 or 7 position is drafting nice. You can come out with a elite running back or even elite receiver. But I think my hat goes off to guys like Richard, who was picking at 10. I'd say 8 through 10. That makes it a little tougher. You run out of these big time players. But Jahmyr Gibbs, pick your name out of a hat here. They're all good picks to me, and as far as the top 7, top 8 picks, I'm pretty comfortable there. And I was comfortable with Gibbs at 1 or 2 overall.
Yeah, I really like the pick. I mean, like I said, it's just kind of what's your flavor. There's not really a wrong pick here in the first round. In all honesty, anybody you're really choosing from in that top tier bucket is gonna be up there in the top finishers at their overall position. So I do like Gibbs there, and like you said, I was just looking at the stats showing everybody he had a floor of 14 points for a starting running back. You can't complain about that. Even some of the top guys will have a down game here and there. So Gibbs at 102, in my opinion, I like that. What do you think about that? Richard, can you add a little
I'm
thought
a,
process to you?
a huge Gibbs fan. Yeah, I mean, I would have taken Gibbs there too. It's very hard not to. He's kind of the PPR king right now on running backs. Um,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, no doubt. All right, well, down here for my first pick, after kind of what had played out, where we had three running backs off the board, three wide receivers, the top tight end, and even a top quarterback off the board, I didn't really find myself particularly leaning any one which way. I'm a big fan of Amon-Ra St. Brown, especially since he came into the league. He was one of those guys that I kind of drafted in the second round, and he ended up popping. So he was kind of a cherished kind of player for me, I guess, through the years. And I've had him in many leagues, and always been a top end producer. I like his work ethic. I've liked him even more since he was on wide receiver, just because the guy's got the kind of work ethic that you really want to see in a fantasy football asset, and the fact that he kind of gives you the kind of floor of a guy like the top end wide receivers at what, let's even go in and look, like a 15 16.4, yeah, six, oh, that's like this year. Like a 16 to 18 point floor. I mean, what else can you ask for from a first round wide receiver? And I just think that his role is not really going to change. He's the clear cut number one receiving target in Detroit, and that's not. Jameson can't handle the kind of volume that Amon-Ra can, and the team doesn't really have any plans to move off or grab anybody else that's going to give him competition. So as far as I'm concerned, he should be up there for much of his career. Why? What do you guys think about my first pick? Roast me here.
I'm curious to see what happens with Laporta in the situation, coming back from that injury, if things will change in volume for Amon-Ra.
Sure.
I love him. I have him in one of my home leagues, and he's holding me together in that home league. But you never know with somebody as good as Laporta coming back.
Yeah, sure, I agree. I think if there was anybody that was going to give him competition for volume, it's definitely Laporta. I guess I feel, he's kind of, I guess, have a more secure role, and there could definitely be some regression there. But I guess the floor for me is still content enough with it. Johnny, what do you think there?
I like the pick. I tell you what, I'm thinking about Gibbs too because I made my pick with Gibbs, right? And here we are. You're at 9. You took Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm now starting to wonder, like, about Gibbs. I stand behind my pick, but I do wonder, the difference in the offensive line here. What that's going to mean. I do think
Mhm.
it hurt Amon-Ra St. Brown off the top of my head a little bit more than Gibbs. Maybe Gibbs gets more dump offs, but Amon-Ra St. Brown maybe he's really affected because he's not really the go down 40-yard field. You need time in the pocket. Like I think they can make that adjustment. So
Sure.
if you're out there, shying away because of the offensive line changes, probably for the lesser, I wouldn't really overthink that. I will ask you this, Axton. I was a little surprised. My top through 7, why I'm so comfortable there. There was a guy that fell real late, Derrick Henry. I would have put him. I was surprised he made it past pick 7 or 8. What you even came back and got McCaffrey. I know I'm in the second round, but not Derrick Henry there for you.
No, you're right. I absolutely could have, and it's one of those things that maybe in a different round, if I was feeling a different flavor, I probably could have. I honestly thought about it as I was coming home this morning or this afternoon. Wondering, I was like, damn, that would have been filthy to have a Derrick Henry in round 1 and turn around and come around and have a Christian McCaffrey in round 2. But I guess in this one, I was feeling a little more wide receiver. And again, it's one of those things that's kind of like I don't think either one of these guys are really going to finish too far off from one another. Let's just look at total of 24 points last season, 336 for Derrick Henry. And if we go to Amon-Ra St. Brown, we're looking at 316. So, I mean, 20 points difference. And I mean, in all honesty, it could go the other way this year just as easily as it did last year. And so many variables could kind of pop up here. But I agree. Derrick Henry in a redraft league, in all honesty, should probably go more closer to the end of the first round. I can agree with you on that.
Maybe 31. Maybe Father Time does catch up. So it's not
Sure.
a
I think that could be. I think that's a thing too. Now it's like, we keep seeing it, but the wheels will fall off.
yeah.
He is not gonna run until he's 40 years old, even if he is built like a brick shit house. So, I think everybody's just kind of like waiting on the edge of their seat every year, and he's going to kind of be a value every year. So if you can scoop him up in that second round, and we'll even kind of jump into the second round here, where, oh, actually, not even second round, we didn't even get to Richard. So, well, Rich, give us your thoughts here on Genty rounding out round one, because I'm excited for some action Genty. Watching the stat lines, like, it was unbelievable when I was looking at just box scores overall last year. I was like, I couldn't even believe an actual stat line that he was putting up on average per game around 200 yards a game. It was nuts. So, talk us through your mindset here and going Genty here to round out
Yeah,
round one.
2,600 yards, 29 touchdowns in his senior season. Kind of a workhorse. Probably the best definition of a workhorse coming into the NFL. So excited for him. Kind of the entire offense of the Raiders at this point. Um, Not a lot of people to throw to, so with Carroll there, I guess the expectation would be we're going to run it and run it again, run him into the ground to see if the Raiders can survive in that manner this year. There's no Josh Jacobs replacement. There hasn't been. It's been 2 years, and uh, I think this is our guy. And when Carroll was at the Broncos, I was looking up the stats there because I'm always struggling with rookies, and if this is like the right time rookie in the round. Pete Carroll took the Broncos from the 18th running team to the ninth running team in 1 year. He can change an offense and make it more forward thinking with the run and a run focus. So I'm excited to see what happens. Yeah, I think feel free to roast me too. It's definitely a risky pick, right? The
Yeah.
Derrick Henry. I was considering McCaffrey there as well.
Sure. Yeah, no, but I think you've also got, if there was a kind of a lock for any kind of rookie, I think you hit on it. So, the everything is kind of playing into Genty's favor, where, you've got a new quarterback who's gonna have some time, who's gonna need some time to get some chemistry with his receiving core, and if he ever struggles in any one game, Genty's gonna be right there for a dump off, or they can just feel confident about running Genty through the tackles and knowing that if their passing game isn't working, they can opt through the room and then open lanes and then passing game as a result. So, it's just going to allow more flexibility for the offense, in my opinion, especially with a guy of this kind of caliber. We haven't really seen a guy put up the kind of stats and mobility that Genty was able to put up. So, he's pretty impressive. I'm excited to see kind of what he can do in that Raiders offense. And, they've got enough respectable weapons. I think that the Raiders could be a sneaky team to kind of maybe, well, I'd say it's going to be hard pressed to make it in with the division that they're in, but they're going to knock some big hitters around this year. I think they're going to be a team that shocks the NFL.
He can catch the ball too, and that's always a big piece here when we're talking PPR offense.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's kick off round two here. 13 minutes in here after round one. We'll try to speed things up, but jump into it here. Richard started off with Malik Neighbors for pick 201. Chris Free at 2-2. Then Omarion Hampton comes off the board. Devon Achane, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Jaden Daniels, Puka Nacua at 208, and Marvin Harrison Jr. at 2-9, and Joe Burrow to round out round two at 210. So walk us through your Malik Neighbors here. Ashton Genty, Malik Neighbors, that's a hell of a duo here to start off your draft. You got to be feeling damn good about that. 170 targets incoming for a guy like Malik Neighbors, pretty much
Yeah,
the entire offense. How are you feeling about that one?
yeah. When he's healthy, he looks electric. Like I think that with Russ there throwing him the ball again and again and again, there's not many other targets on that team besides Wandale, and I think it can be. I took some risks here, right? I took some risks in the first and the second round. I think I I don't always go running back, especially at the turn. Not many high caliber receivers after the top 10. So I wanted that like mix for my entire roster to feel somewhat complete early on.
Yeah. Yeah, you got two anchors there early on for your running back and wide receiver. That opens up a lot of flexibility for the rest of your draft, and you don't really feel pinned to kind of go any one position. And yeah, Malik Neighbors is going to soak up all the target New York. Did you guys know? Fun fact here: it's a little bit of a off topic, but kind of similar. Did you know Wan'Dale Robinson had 140 targets last year?
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah,
Freaking nuts! Didn't do nothing. Caught
Right.
him and fell down.
Right.
he's a huge target in Scott Fishbowl this year because of that reason.
Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. But yeah, no, I think you're pretty well locked there. Malik Neighbors, he could have easily gone anywhere in the first round, and then to start off round with Ashton Genty. I mean, if anybody has as a rookie the kind of upside to be the RB1 overall, it's Ashton Genty, and if that's the case and it pans out, you just got a whole 1 round value on a rookie pick there. So he could easily take you to the promised land if things go right. So, Johnny, you want to chime in here, give us a little opinion of your own here on the Genty Neighbors stack there.
I'll say this. I mean, I was skeptical with Malik Neighbors in the 3rd round last year. Here he is, cemented in the 2nd again. My personal belief playing fantasy for about 15 years now is that wide receivers take more time to break in than the running backs. I mean, we've seen some really great running backs come in and pop as rookies. So, my gut tells me the Genty pick is great. Love the usage. Love the safe touches that I think he'll garner, and the fact that they really doubled down. They said Zamir White, these guys, we got to go get the best of the best. Shows me that they're going to really focus on that running game. It really means a lot to them. So I'm really cool with Genty there. There's guys, we talked about Henry, McCaffrey. There's guys, there's injury concerns, age is catching up. So I'm fine with that. And then Malik Neighbors, I'm in on this year. I mean, he showed it as a rookie. Not many, just a few years ago, there was a stat, I think only 3 or 5 rookies were in the top 25 in PPR scoring. Seems that mold has broken, even with my second round we'll get to, young guy too. So these rookies can pop, and now they're second-year players. So I really like – I mean, I'm sure Richard's over there wishing this was a dynasty, dynasty mock draft. He would be sitting real pretty. But I do like those picks, and even in my second pick, I was kind of scratching my head, and there's a million ways you can spin it here. So it was a really good outcome from the missing the top 7, top 8 picks where it's money in the bank. So I like what he did there.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. I'll go into a little bit about my pick here at Christian McCaffrey. I've been big on Christian McCaffrey. I was buying in on him last year as he was kind of having his injury woes, hoping for obviously a lot better season than what panned out. But I had been burned early on in Christian McCaffrey's career, and I had got that bad taste like much of what people are doing now. But I got over it after a couple of years of kind of fading him because I got tired of watching everybody else have him. So I was trying to buy back in, it didn't go right, but I'm being a little patient. I'll give him 1 more year, especially considering kind of upside that he can put up when he can easily jump up there and get the RB1 number or type numbers for fantasy football. And I'm getting him in the 2nd round. It's obviously a big risky pick. Johnny and I were talking before the show that it's kind of a if you ain't first, you're last kind of pick where, you're going for gold. You're not really going to make the playoffs and see what happens. You're going for number 1 kind of thing. So I'm surprised that Amon-Ra even fell as far as he did in round 1. I would have bet that he would have been taken earlier in the 1st. So to be able to get one of my favorite guys and then turn around and get a big upside swing on Christian McCaffrey, who I think could have easily gone in round 1. I in a way, I feel like personally that I kind of got 2 first-round talents is kind of like much of what both of you guys could make a case for as well. So that's kind of my case for McCaffrey. And then not to mention, I'm big on San Francisco players overall just because if you go look at their schedule, it's actually insanely easy. They don't play any big hitting teams. Take a look at this: Seattle, New Orleans, Arizona, Jacksonville, the Rams, Tampa Bay, Atlanta, Houston, the Giants, Rams again, Arizona, Carolina, Cleveland, Tennessee, Indianapolis, Chicago, and Seattle. Tampa Bay and the freaking Rams are the best teams that San Francisco plays in a 17-game season, and they have that can be the RB1 overall, a more than respectable quarterback and some playmakers to catch the ball as well. George Kittle is one of my favorite guys as well. I was going to ask what you guys thought about Brock Bowers going round 1 when we've got Trey McBride in round 3, George Kittle in round 5, with the kind of points they're putting up as well. So, I'm big on San Francisco just overall. So, what do you guys think?
I back that pick up. I like McCaffrey a lot, man. I'm with you on the double first round pick. I think that lightning strike twice in a row, so got the injury out of the way. It wasn't seem like it was injury after injury, separate injuries. I think there was a point that they were kind of protecting him, so maybe they were protecting him for the breakout, not breakout, but continuance of dominance that McCaffrey were used to. So I really like that pick. I mean, I would have taken him over Bowers. You look at the next pick, Hampton. I'd much rather have McCaffrey over Hampton. And I'll play a little devil's advocate with that stat you said, Axton. I'm wondering how it goes, right? Yeah, they're going to probably be up in games. They can afford to rush the ball. But I'm wondering, and training camp is going to speak volumes on this, is how healthy is McCaffrey? Because if you're having easy games, from the jump, maybe he's not getting so much involved. Maybe they kind of want to protect him. So there's kind of two sides to that coin. But at the same time, it just comes out to how healthy he is in training camp. And maybe those are kind of like audition games, like we want to test him out. We want to give him all he can handle and see if, he's back to full health, or, maybe there's some hesitation there. So I think bottom line, you play for the playoffs. If you're a veteran, manager, you're playing for the playoffs. And I think that's a playoff move. So I still stand behind McCaffrey, and I'm not scared. I mean, 29 years old, I'd take the side of upside, and, the McCaffrey we've seen for so many years now. So I like that pick.
Right on. Yeah, tell us a little bit about your pick there. Marvin Harrison going in round 2 for your second pick to round out a wide receiver to add to Gibbs.
See, once you see the board like this, like I'm looking and I'm like, I think I was thinking, I took a running back. We have to start so many, flex options, WRTs. So there was a point that I, was saying I was going to hit running backs hard, which I did the next 2 rounds. But for this one, I said, let me get a top tier receiver. And now looking at this board, a guy in the 3rd round that Gump 7285 pick, Nico Collins, maybe a pick that I would toss up for those two.
Sure.
Obviously, Puka was gone, but I do hear some Puka regression anyhow. Maybe that's true, maybe not. But still, Nico Collins, maybe it's someone I would have jumped over Marvin Harrison. But I think I was just tantalized with the fact that, again, he came in rookie year and did it. And I think the targets, him and McBride, I like both of those picks. And I want to get some Marvin Harrison Jr. shares volume, just like we talked about with Genty. Volume is key, and I think Harrison definitely has that going for him. And maybe he, I'm not saying he's going to be player of the year, but if he can maintain what he had last year and maybe grow a little bit, this is a safe pick for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's excuse me. I think with the kind of people are a little down on Marvin Harrison just because of the kind of hype that he had coming into the league, and I think we all should have had a little bit of tempered expectations. I think coming from a guy being drafted to a team with a mobile quarterback, already having a top tier tight end on the team, commanding a lot of targets. So I think that there's definitely a lot of room for him to jump up in terms of just sheer target share and overall efficiency from what we saw last year. So yeah, I mean, and a guy with his kind of talent could easily make good on that 2-9 pick. So I like that one there to round it out. What do you think there, Richard? Anything to add to that, Martin Harrison?
I kind of agree with the name. Like that's a good draft for talent. Like we know the talent. We started to see flashes of it, and this is the year where we should see a lot more of it. Turn the page.
Sure. Yeah, it's still kind of a little bit of what's your flavor here. Personally, I probably would have been more hip on like a Brian Thomas or Nico Collins, but also considering the kind of strategy I went with, as we'll see here in the 3rd round, that Brian Thomas may not have made a whole lot of sense. But essentially, they're all kind of different guys in the same kind of bucket. In all honesty, any one of them could kind of jump up above the other. So, right on. Well, let's jump in here to round 3. Jonathan Taylor here goes off the board at 3-1. Johnny grabs Josh Jacobs at 3-2. Brian Thomas, TreVeyon Henderson, Nico Collins, Trey McBride, Breece Hall at 3-7. Lad McConkey, Travis Hunter, and then Richard takes Bucky Irving to round out the round. So, Johnny, you took Josh Jacobs to pair up with and Marvin Harrison. Got a high volume running back there for Green Bay, looking like he's going to have another ho-hum season among the top running backs. Share a little bit about your thought process there.
Yeah, man, I like what you said. Ho hum, back to his old ways. This guy's just sturdy, and that's what I like about Josh Jacobs, just his sturdiness. I definitely think that they have a nice blend of all the receivers they have there in Green Bay, and Josh Jacobs is just a player out there. When he does it well. And whether it was the Raiders here now, is a great player, great rock. You know what you're getting. The touches should be there. The volume should be there. So Josh Jacobs, only 27 in the prime of his career. Has shown no signs of slowing down yet, and I'm going to back him. Probably if Jonathan Taylor did not get taken before that, I might have considered Jonathan Taylor, but he did. I was there's some running backs after. I mean, I wouldn't have touched Travion Henderson this early, but Brees Hall I was eyeing up, but I torn on here he had year. I have capable backups. Bucky Irving was a rookie. Let's see if he really can do this. Josh Jacobs, he's been there a vet for so many years. And I like this offense. Again, stability, sturdiness, and let's build those running backs heavy. That's what I want to do in the top 3-4 rounds. If I can come out with, and I understand this is a mock, but in real life, if you come out with, say, 3 or 4 top running backs, the dividends that can pay, if you need to bail out later, if you're not doing so hot, those running backs hold a lot of weight. So that's kind of what my mindset was. Anytime you build your team, build a running back heavy, and wherever you go, whether they are carrying you to success or you have downfalls, they can be your way out. So they hold a lot of value to me. So Josh Jacobs, pillar of stability. That's what I'll say.
No, he could have easily gone around in the round 2, in my opinion. I mean, Omarion Hampton, I feel like was maybe a little bit of a reach there as a rookie running back, splitting touches with Najee Harris. I know but he could have easily slotted in there anywhere in the second round, in my opinion. A guy getting 15 to 20 touches a game who's running 4 or more yards per carry is going to put up top end numbers, and that volume alone is just volume and efficiency, especially, is just going to give you a solid floor. In round 1, you can take a little bit more of a risk with the guys who are more involved in the passing game and guys with the very high upside like Jahmyr Gibbs. Josh Jacobs may not have the kind of season long upside of a guy like, but he does have it on a week-to-week basis, and he's got the floor to match. So I like those kind of very high floor picks there for Josh Jacobs. Nothing overly flashy, but a guy who's bringing his lunch pail to work, and damn it, he's going to be working until the day's done.
I'm afraid of drafting almost any receiver with Green Bay, but Josh.
Oh
Jacobs
yeah, I'm not hands off anybody receive.
ability.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody outside of Josh Jacobs and maybe Jordan Love if he falls enough to me. Yeah, I'm not. Now IDP, I think there's some. It's actually honestly, it's even kind of eerie on the IDP side of things too, where we've really got maybe a linebacker or 2 that we like, and everybody else is just kind of like, maybe. So, yeah, we'll just kind of have to see. They're more of a good football team in real life than maybe fantasy will allow for us right now.
They're playing in Brazil against, right, to start things off.
Oh yeah, is that right? Are they?
Yeah. It's a wild team.
Oh man, yeah, no kidding. Yeah, we'll have to see if they can gain some consistency. I heard some things about Jordan Love being hurt, and maybe that they had to kind of change the scheme last year to kind of fit what maybe was their team was able to do. So maybe we see them kind of get more consistent play out of their receivers this year, but not a strong enough kind of conviction for me to really buy in too much. So I'd rather it honestly, personally. So. Here, we'll talk a little bit, move on to the rest of this third round here. I took Travis Hunter, big controversial pick. A lot of people don't know where to go, where to take Travis Hunter. Well, I will take Travis Hunter at pick 3-9 because, in all honesty, in IDP plus offensive drafts, he could make a case to go in the first couple of rounds as well, because if things go right, he's personally, I've heard a lot of chatter that he was easily the most talented wide receiver in this class. Just maybe didn't quite have the defensive side of the ball and the play time over there kind of muddies the waters for people's perception, I think, of Travis Hunter and maybe what his upside might be, what he might be capable of as far as an upside. So, but if things go right, I've said it before, Travis Hunter, essentially you slide him into your defensive back slot. You're playing a wide receiver, a defensive back, and you open up on the offensive side of the ball to add potentially another top tier talent. If you're in Dynasty and you can trade draft capital to fill that slot with a top tier guy, damn, you're really setting yourself apart, especially if things go right and maybe Travis Hunter ends up being a 15 point per game offensive weapon for the Jaguars. And then on IDP, he only plays a handful of snaps. If he gets a couple of tackles, that's just cherries on top. You're adding sprinkles and whipped cream to your already delicious sundae, in my opinion. So, yeah, it's kind of like I was at this point. I was kind of already taking that huge upside swing with McCaffrey and going, balls to the wall. We're going for number one. So if I'm going to take that on Christian McCaffrey, I might as well take a big swing on a guy like Travis Hunter, who could potentially be a league winner even in round 3. So that's kind of where I was sitting with the mindset of Travis Hunter, and then also the fact that with that kind of talent, he comes into a team who's improved the offensive line to protect their quarterback, a franchise quarterback who's already displayed quarterback one upside. And I think that I'm big on Trevor Lawrence this year as well, where Liam Cohen comes in after being with Tampa Bay and everything he did there, and now he's really backing up and bulking the offensive line to help this team. I'm really kind of I feel like the Jaguars are going to see a big swing up again this year. So, what do you guys think about the controversial Travis Hunter pick?
I don't think it's controversial at this point in the draft. I think that's where you need to take a swinger in these first 4 or so rounds. He'll change the game. That's what everyone's saying, at least. Flea Flicker, one of those other fantasy apps that not many people use. I have 2 leagues on that one. This is the first time in 4 years they've made a big feature change to the website, and that feature change is to support somebody like Travis Hunter.
Wow.
So it's very exciting. He's bringing a little change, and he's making IDP a little more mainstream. Exciting, right? It's very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe he will open up some eyes on the offensive side of the ball to IDP. So I hope he does. That's awesome.
I think they're saying in camp that they're kind of switching him back and forth between both roles. So
Sure.
they'll probably see where he fits the best for a play here, a play there, and yeah, I'm excited. I think it'll be a very different offense this year. It was a little disappointing last year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they put some things together and they've got some promising pieces. So yeah, we see. Johnny, you got anything to add?
Yeah, I'll add on this. So, looking at the defensive backs last year in a tackle heavy 2-point for a solo 1-point assist, the Yahoo League I went back and looked. Buda Baker was set on top with 282 points. Now, if right now, let's translate it to the offense. If you think that Brian Thomas's year last year, his rookie year, is something that's in the cards right now offensively for Travis Hunter. Well, Brian Thomas had 101 points. He had 19 more points than Buda Baker. So you're already getting the defensive back one. Axton and I were talking before. Very unlikely that Buda Baker repeats that anyhow. Now, it's about where you think that he's going to land offensively. I think you have to go into it right now if you're drafting, or until we hear some kind of clarity that there's not going to be much food for thought on defense. I would say good projection, maybe 20, 30 tackles. Maybe that gets blown out of the water in the preseason. Maybe he does come up with bigger usage, but just depends on what you think he's going to do as offensively. I would say more of a Jerry Jeudy type of number, where in PPR scoring, Jerry Jeudy ended with 257 points. But that was just offense. If you add another 20, 30 tackles, you're still looking at upwards of 300 points. I don't think there's going to be a world as time moves on and there's more hype that Travis Hunter is going to slide down to the 4th or 5th pick. So this is probably where you're going to have to make your second or if you're in or you're out. I just know I can find defensive backs later, and I'm not going to put up with the risk here. Axton, I respect you for doubling down McCaffrey and then Travis Hunter. You're really airing it out. I respect that. You're a vet. You can make the pivot if things don't work out, and that may be coming into the consideration too. Do I think that Travis Hunter is going to have the year that Brian Thomas had on offense last year? No. And if you're confident in IDP, I don't think you need to make this move. But like Axton said, if it works out, he's first round talent. So big swing for the fences here. I like it. I respect it.
Sure. All right, let's move into Richard. Talk a little bit about your pick there with Bucky Irving there. Big. Honestly, he's fallen a little bit from where I would have imagined that he would have gone. A lot of
Yeah,
people are big on Bucky this year.
I was excited for that. Yeah, I think we're running out of probably the tier of running backs at this point, and I think
Mhm.
Bucky's one of those last of the second tier. It's a very interesting season last year. I think I drafted him in the mid rounds last year, and was a little disappointed the first few weeks that the share wasn't where I wanted it to be with Rashad White. But if you look just before the bye week, he's consistent week after week. I think he had one down week last year, and I think he's got the volume, and I'm very excited for. I never thought I would have said that 2 years ago, but like an electric offense last year, and I'm very pumped for a new year for Baker and that team. Um, and he's young. He's got the talent. I hard to say anything else at this point. Like there's, I think maybe him and Kyron Williams are probably the two that I would have considered at this point. I don't know if I would have drafted Chase Brown above him.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot about Chase Brown. People are talking me more into him just because there's uh, nobody's going to really compete for touches there in Cincinnati, and frankly, they're gonna have to have a lot of playmakers going on the offensive side of the ball with the way that defense is looking because they're gonna have to air it out and score points somehow, and they're not gonna always be able to do it through the game. The ground game or through the air. The ground game was working for last year. Jamar Chase and T Higgins are just an unstoppable pair, which is just inevitably going to open up the ground game. So that's kind of my mindset there is like as long as they have Chase Brown and T Higgins, their defenses are going to be so worried about the pass game, they're not going to even think about Chase Brown, and he's just going to continue to run all over teams. I'm not expecting the kind of volume we saw last year, where he was among the top guys in the league in just sheer touches, but I think we can expect a little bit more efficiency, I guess, in terms, kind of that trade-off for the volume. So I won't go much into my Chase Brown pick here now that I've kind of gone too much into it. But I want to hear more about your Drake London pick because I think that was honestly a steal at 4-1 to pair with Ashton Genty, Malik Neighbors, and Bucky Irving. I like that Drake London pick. He had last few games of the season with Michael Penix, he was putting up numbers that could have easily landed him in round one. So give us your mindset there with Drake London.
I think he finally broke out last year. He's probably the one of the most electric receivers going into this year. I'm just so excited for the potential there. He was fourth wide receiver in PPR scoring last year. That's
Mhm.
probably all you need to know, right? Like
Yeah.
taking him in the fourth round is superb. I'm very happy. Or yeah, fourth round. I'm very happy with that turn there on both players.
Sure, yeah, and that 100 targets, 100 receptions, 1,200 yards, and virtually nobody else to compete with for targets. Kyle Pitts, we thought was going to be a unicorn, and really has never gotten the kind of usage that we would have liked to have seen. Michael Penix has already shown an affinity for him, and they've already displayed some sort of chemistry early on. So, a lot of encouraging things for Drake London, and I think that just barring any kind of catastrophic injury or setback, I think he's pretty well due for his fair share of every bit of a 40, 150 plus targets. So I love that pick. That one stood out to me particularly. Now, I do want to get into your pick, Johnny, because when I was picking Chase Brown here, I had your pick queued up, also ready to make that selection. I've been going back and forth on Ken Walker all off season. Now we hear a little bit about some soft tissue kind of injury, maybe bothering him, or maybe it was an ankle. What happens? He tweaked something here recently, and it's just one of those, you know, you've been so excited all offseason. I've been super excited because Clint Kubiak's coming in and he's talking up the run game. He's talking about giving Ken Walker the ball. He's not even acknowledging Zach Charbonnet's a thing. So where everyone was so excited about Zach Charbonnet coming in and stealing Ken Walker's job, seems like he's going to have to wait his turn. But I did have Ken Walker queued up, and I had taken him in a lot of in some other best ball leagues, but I ultimately passed on him for Chase Brown. So I do get off to you and give me your mindset. What do you like so much about Ken Walker?
I'll tell you what, I just think he's a player that healthy, if Charbonnet didn't have the end that he did, and Walker got hurt, I think that we would be looking at him as a third round pick, no later than that. And I did want to build running back heavy. When you look at the guys after James Cook, you could make a case for, but I do think Ray Davis is somebody there. So I definitely think there's cracks in the foundation for these later guys. James Conner, great running back, but will father time catch up. Kenneth Walker's still young; he's still electric, and 24 years old. I think he's got a lot of juice left in the tank, and I wanted to build running back heavy in this draft, and especially in this round. And I thought he was just the best fantasy running back available. So I made that pick, and like again, guys after him, I wouldn't have picked any other running back after, and I was pretty set on running back at that point. So Kenneth Walker, I'm not going to say he's a huge steal in the fourth round, but I think he's somebody who's flying under the radar, and he should be ahead of that depth chart. I don't think there's any question about it. They have a competent backup, and that's great. But I'm more willing to bet on the kind of player we've seen when healthy. I understand he's had health risks, but Kenneth Walker was an easy choice here for me, and I'm glad you backed me up and you said you were thinking about him too, and I'm glad he made it all the way with me.
Yeah, I was I was fully pessimistic that he was gonna. I know that's kind of counterintuitive, but I was hopefully pessimistic that he was gonna make it back to me. But yeah, I was considering him there. I would have taken him at 4-2 if I was feeling a little bit more leaning towards Ken Walker there. But something I've been doing anywhere I get Ken Walker is I definitely make sure that I've got Zach Charbonnet just because of the kind of injury history we have seen with Ken Walker. I feel it's almost a necessity to have Zach Charbonnet because you never know when he could go, when something could happen, and Charbonnet's one of the most elite handcuffs in the league, and he's just essentially going to be a slide out, slide in, same production kind of player, in my opinion. So, yeah, if you got to waste a roster spot for a handcuff, I think it's well worth it for a guy like Zach Charbonnet. Okay, well, that rounds out our round 4 there. I know I didn't read through, trying to cut some time here, but we'll get into your pick 5 here, Johnny. But let's start off with 5-1. Went James Cook, Tyreek Hill, Devon Smith, James Calvin Kamara, JSN, Quinshon Judkins at 5-7, Chuba Hubbard at 5-8, George Kittle. I took George Kittle, and then to round out round 5, Richard took Terry McLaurin. So, Johnny, give us your thoughts here behind Tyreek Hill. I think he is also a guy with some extreme upside who's kind of falling in drafts. I think just due to the unpredictability of the Dolphins' offense as a whole. So, it looks like you're willing to take a shot here that they're wheels turning finally after a couple of seasons with Tua kind of going down and having some incomplete seasons. You feeling a little bit better about the Dolphins this year?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, fifth round here, to me, it's a no-brainer. This is a guy that was not falling anywhere out of the second round last year, and I get it. He's getting older, but at the same time, Tyreek Hill, when he's on the field healthy, and Tua is healthy, it's a smash play. And I do think that this is I'm willing to ride, put my investment in the hands of Tua here. I do think he'll stay healthy. If not, we got huge problems. But at the same time, concussions, that kind of stuff, it's scary. But at the same time, protect the dude. I know every quarterback's bound to get hit, but let's just say Tua is fully healthy. They lost Jonnu Smith. I think there's more targets, more attention, and the fact that Tyreek Hill at this point had a down year last year, just under 1,000 yards. It was a down year, no doubt about it. But I think this is a rare kind of a unicorn type, like you had mentioned before, the word unicorn. And Tyreek Hill can still, fly. He's a walking bomb at any given time. The year he had in 2023, he doesn't really have to have that year. I'm not expecting that at 31 years old. If he can somewhere hit between last year and in that 2023 year, you're going to have great value at this fifth round. So a blessing if he slides down to you in the fifth round. Again, I took some running backs earlier. I'm sitting 3 running backs here. If I was looking running back, it would probably be Era. Same time, to fill out my team, I thought you can't pass on Tyreek Hill. He's not coming back to you. And I'm not a big believer in Waddle, never was. Maybe this is his year, who's to say? But Tyreek Hill, the vets, the old stalwarts, the guys the breadwinners who you know who they are. We are who they thought they were. And that's Tyreek Hill for me here, too. So I think his fifth round is incredible. I'll take this every time. I don't think he'll be there when the season comes out. We'll get some comforting news. He's healthy. He's looking good. Tua's looking good. And it's the perfect storm again.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. In all honesty, looking here at Tyreek Hill's finishes, you drafted him as wide receiver 17. He's never finished below wide receiver 19 since a rookie with a full season. So, I mean, to be honest, you're drafting him at his floor, and the upside is wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, which he's done more than once. So, there, I think, in round 5. I decided to go George Kittle. That's 2, double dipping in the San Francisco well, but as I mentioned earlier in the show, I'm just big on that San Francisco schedule and the kind of coaching staff for a team like this with the kind of high-powered weapons they got, and with that kind of schedule, I think they're going to get some fantasy production out of their players just from sheer volume and just efficiency. I mean, the Shanahan tree is not just going to go down without a fight, and I think that Christian McCaffrey going to have to be leaned on. Brandon Ayuk's on the pup. They've got a bunch of nagging injuries among the wide receiver core. I think Juwan Jennings is like the only one that's healthy, and I'm pretty sure I even grabbed him later on too in the 17th round. So I probably went a little heavy on San Francisco, but I guess it just goes more to the fact that, when you've got a team that's run so well by such a great coaching staff with the kind of prowess that they have, and you've got playmakers who can have the kind of upside that Kittle as a tight end 1, or Christian McCaffrey has shown us that kind of upside as well in the running back position. I just feel like it's almost silly not to kind of dip into, an offense like that. So I was able to get a couple of players I think that could finish top of their positions, and albeit George Kittle at 19 points per game was right behind Brock Bowers, and I got about 5 round value on it. So I feel pretty good about George Kittle there. So. Just my little tidbit on George Kittle. I won't ask for y'all and won't ask you to roast me quite yet, so we can keep this thing quite rolling on. You guys can hit me later whenever I get to Waddle. I think Johnny already took a shot at me, so we'll get into Richard's pick here at 5'10 for Terry McLaurin to pair with Ashton Genty, Malik Neighbors, Bucky Irving, Drake London. This is a 1 quarterback draft as well. I don't think I mentioned that off the top. So obviously, if you guys haven't already picked up on that, by some freaking no quarterback off. So Terry McLaurin at 5'10. What are you thinking there? Adding him as your 3rd wide receiver to round out what your flex? Oh no, that'd be your first flex player there.
Yeah, Scary Terry. Let's see, Jaden Daniels up there in the 2nd round. I think I'm always seeing him go the 2nd or 3rd in a lot of drafts that are, especially Superflex. Who's he throwing it to? He's throwing it to Scary Terry. There's some contract issue now. Fingers crossed, nothing goes bad with that. But I mean, he was waiting year after year for a quarterback to throw to him, and he finally found him in Jaden Daniels. And I think Debo will come in and take a little volume, but I don't think he'll. I think Debo has had some father time hit him with injuries in the last couple years, and with that, I don't know how much will really change in the volume that Scary Terry will get. And I think he beats that a lot more than he doesn't. Yeah, I'm just excited for. I'm a DC native, and I'm excited for another year of the Commanders. This could be it.
It was exciting to finally see Terry McLaurin pop after such a long, middling career where we were all just kind of waiting for him to just hit that ceiling, and he finally did, albeit on the back of some touchdowns. That's the only thing that keeps me from drafting him, but it's not like you're spending a super high pick on him, so he's a guy that I think could pretty easily return that 5'10 draft slot there. Yeah, it's just personally for me, with how many touchdowns he had. So many touchdowns last year. It was freaking nuts. 13 touchdowns last year. I'm I guess hopeful that maybe he gets a little bit more volume to kind of counteract that touchdown, because I guess I got to expect a little regression. But like you said, he's pretty much the only playmaker on the team, and he's gonna continue to be. I'm imagining this team not paying him and going into the season without Terry McLaurin.
Mhm.
And if you're going into the season without Terry McLaurin, you're not realistically expecting to make the playoffs. So if he's on the team, he's going to be a focal point of the offense. So I don't think you can really go wrong with a guy like Terry McLaurin. So I am a fan of that pick. So let's we just finished round 5. We're coming up on time here. What do you guys say we wrap this one up, and then we kind of hit a little bit more on our specific guys? I'll let you guys kind of, well, you know what? No, let's round out. Richard, go through the rest of your team. You had Baker Mayfield. Rather than go through it all, every round, every pick, so we can kind of be a little bit more concise.
Sure.
Talk us through the rest of your team with Baker Mayfield as your quarterback, Aaron Jones as your third running back, and we'll go to running here. So Max Crosby as your IDP off the board, then Travis Kelce and Zach Bond. It looked like when you saw IDP start going off the board, that's when you kind of started dipping your toes a little bit, and that's kind of how I treat IDP as well.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about the rest of your team there.
Yeah, so Baker, even though it is a one quarterback league, I saw him as the next value QB pick. I think he can still perform at that high top 5, 7 quarterback level that he did last year. Very excited for that offense. I maybe I drafted him a little too early, looking at the board under me, but I guess hindsight's 2020 there. I a little more excited for him than Patrick Mahomes this year. I think year after year, Patrick Mahomes is a little bit more of a disappointment when it comes to fantasy scoring.
It was a little homer pick there in the 9th round by me.
I keep pointing at like the next guy, and it just happens to be your guy. I don't mean it.
No, you're good. I can take it. Go ahead.
Aaron Jones. Yeah, I chose him next. I think I needed that running back backup, and he's my guy. I'm not as high on running backs as Johnny is here, but I think the volume will still be there, even with Jordan Mason showing up. He might lose a couple touchdowns this year, but I'm still high on Aaron Jones getting the majority of the work, and just kind of the change up being Jordan Mason being mixed in. Feel free to jump in if you have any other thoughts there, and I can keep going.
I like some Baker Mayfield's definitely got that top 5 upside for a quarterback. I don't think we can expect 40 touchdowns, but he's got the playmakers on his side, and I think he could close his eyes and throw the ball to a freaking stud of a wide receiver, and it wouldn't really matter. So I think Baker, especially with the he's shown us his kind of upside there, and the fact that the team's backing him up, and that kind of talent on the field around him. They believe in Baker, so I like that pick there. Then also Aaron Jones, I think he said it's his last season, so but I imagine this team's going to rely heavily on him with a rookie quarterback. They're going to need Aaron Jones to kind of set the tone in game time situations, and he's going to be kind of a safety valve, I would imagine, for J.J. McCarthy of sorts out of the backfield. So I like Aaron Jones, especially in his last season. He's always been a top-end producer. If we just kind of take a look at his career here, last year RB15, you're getting him on a super count. If he was finishing as an RB, a high-end RB2 last year, and I think again, we can expect kind of a ho-hum season for Aaron Jones if he was getting this kind of production last year, over 1,000 yards on the ground and almost 500 through the air. So I think we can expect much more of the same in what's a pretty consistent offense over in Minnesota.
They're very excited for McCarthy this year. I think, and yeah, I'll jump into Max Crosby. I think. Let's see, where am I? This is like the 4th.
Oh, sorry.
No, this is the 8th round.
He's saying how many
the 4th defensive lineman.
Yeah.
I went for value here. Hutchinson, Garrett, Will Anderson, and I mean Crosby could easily be the number 1 defensive linebacker for the year.
Yeah.
Or sorry, he's the 3rd off the board. Will Anderson's after him there. I think he's had those a number of top seasons like 2 years ago.
He had a little bit of a down year last year.
A little bit of an injury issue, but I'm excited. I mean, he's still the same guy, and that defense is built around that man. I'm not a huge Raiders fan, to be clear, but I guess that's my second Raiders.
Sure, high motor guy, playing a lot of snaps. What else can you really ask for defensive there? And talk a little bit, Johnny. We can talk a little bit too here in a sec after Rich kind of rounds out his round 10.
More here.
But I want to jump into when you're done, talk a little bit about strategy, about when we're taking IDPs and kind of our mindsets as well when we think to make that shift. So talk a little bit about Travis Kelce. Of course, that's a nice Chiefs tight end there. I think especially with the Rashee Rice suspension news, we can expect of some additional targets for Travis Kelce at some point during the season. And it says he's in good shape. You got to figure he's going to continue to get some volume. I don't think it's going to turn into huge upside 100+ yard games every week like it used to, but I think he can maybe expect some more intermediate targets and just some kind of chain moving type production. So I like that pick at round 10. You want to talk about him and some Zach Bond there?
Yeah, I think it there was a little bit of a drought there on tight ends, and Kelsey, I needed that tight end, and he seemed to be a good fall there. I think Loveland before him is not a move that I would have made. I don't trust the rookie tight ends. I think Brock Bowers is the anomaly. It just never happens. But Kelsey, excited for his last year, as he said. I think it'll be interesting. Yeah, with Rashi Rice being suspended for some time. I don't know if we know how long yet. I think they're suggesting it could be like 4 games. That connection has been there for years, and this could be the one big round out for his career. So I'm excited there. Zach Bond, linebacker 1 last year, if not close to linebacker 1.
Top 3, no doubt.
Yeah, top 3. Yeah. So let's see. I think he's the third off the board there. Roquan, and then no, second off the board.
Third.
Yeah. Okay, Zaire's way up there. Yeah. So again, for volume, I could see the IDP train getting started there, and I wanted to get a linebacker higher up on the board that was a good linebacker. I don't think much is going to change this year with him and his volume. I think he gets those tackles, and he's a good person to round your team around when it comes to IDP side.
No doubt. Yeah, that role is not going to change. I think we can expect something. If he can already put up 150 tackles, he's going to rush the passer, got that upside. So definitely locked in a top-end linebacker there for your IDP side of your ball, or IDP side of your team. So that's Rich with Ashton Genty, Malik Neighbors, Bucky Irving, Drake London, Terry McLaurin, Baker Mayfield, Aaron Jones, Max Crosby, Travis Kelce, and Zach Bond in the first 10 rounds. Now let's kick it over to Johnny, talk about a little bit about the rest of your team. We'll kind of go through our teams as of the 10th round, and then we'll jump into kind of the second half of this, and we'll try to reorganize that to kind of get through some important points and keep it a little concise for the next show. But Johnny, take us through the rest of your squad over here. I think we left off here with Tyreek Hill in the 5th round. In the 6th, you took George Pickens at 6'9". In the 7th, you went Cortland Sutton right after the turn, then Xavier Worthy in the 9th, and to round it out in round 10, you picked Brian Robinson, volume running back there in Washington. So talk a little bit about your run here of 5 straight wideouts after going running back early.
I love what I did with the wide receivers here. I think the right time, right place. I mean, George Pickens, I think, honestly, I'm not a big Pittsburgh wide receiver. I think we run so much. I think George Pickens is actually going to have the same numbers as his 2023 year as in Pittsburgh, or better. I just think this is a complete Dak Prescott throw the ball. You can see I didn't take a quarterback in this top 10. We'll get to that later. But I'm all in on George Pickens, CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb, I think, maybe takes a little bit of – this is not Brandon Cooks. This is not Jaylen Tolbert. Here's the wide receiver too. I think this is great value for George Pickens as well as Cortland Sutton. I think Cortland Sutton may be a player who's going to get traded. We'll see. But right now he's Bo Nix's one guy, and solid. I mean, we've seen him make leaping catches. That red zone threat that he is. I think Cortland Sutton's very underrated going into the year. Xavier Worthy, I would much rather have Rashid Rice. I guess I'm looking better now with Rashid Rice's potential, suspension looming. But at the same time, like I said before, I'm a guy who I draft for the playoffs. So I'm not really looking at it and say, oh, Rashid Rice is going to do so well in the first couple games. If he does, hats off. I'll trade him at top dollar and work on my team elsewhere. Ricky Pearsall really like as a late round kind of get this year. I'm with you, Axton. I still think San Francisco really good football, team, really good football coaches. And I think Ricky Pearsall is a guy who, with Debo gone, I understand he's having some health concerns. It's been basically since he's walked into the room. But Ricky Pearsall, if he can stay healthy, I think there's a lot of volume coming his way. First round pick, I think he's got a lot of juice and a lot of untapped potential. So I'm fine with that there. I'm basically drafting a big bench right now with the mindset that I'm going to make trades, which I'd start right after the draft. Sending trades, my queue will be full by the time the draft is over. That's the kind of player I am. Brian Robinson, perfect time, perfect place. I think this is a very underrated. We're looking at guys like Tony Pollard, easily would take Robinson over. DeAndre Swift, that's a toss-up. But then looking at it after, Cam Scatterbo, Pacheco, sure, you can make a case, but these are kind of like second-string running backs at this point. And Brian Robinson was surprisingly very good last year. And, hey, good teams that are making runs in the postseason, they have to have good running backs. Austin Eckler's only getting older. So unless injury happens for Brian Robinson, I understand they have Debo there now. Maybe that takes some carries away. But at a 10th round pick, when you're taking second strings after this, I think it's a smash pick. So, again, just build that offense. The IDP, I study it. I'm well-versed on it. Hats off to Richard. I like your Crosby pick. I like your Zach Bond pick. Zach is not slipping out of the top 3 for redraft. So well done there. But I do think once we get into the second show here and we go through and look at my defense, I think I did pretty good. Not Bond and Crosby, but for the offense opportunistic buys I got on these guys, I'm more than fine with it. So, again, my mindset is my team is never finalized. Everyone's for sale. And I would sell depth immediately, upon the end of this draft. So I'm really excited to talk about the second half of the draft, and I really like my picks 6 through 10 here.
Absolutely. If you guys like what you've seen so far where we're talking about offense, we're going to get into IDP in the second show more so, where obviously your drafts, traditionally you want to start out your drafts obviously filling out your offensive side of the ball. I think many of us, all 3 of us, kind of had the same mindset where we're going to fill out our starting roster on the offensive side of the ball first. Make sure you fill your all the way down through positions. I even like to add a bench too, just to give me some nice depth as well. That's also, of course, granted that my league mates aren't going to go IDP early. The later that they're going to draft the IDP, the better, the more offensive talent I'm going to scoop up as well. But if they're going to start going early, much like we saw Rich start doing kind of there in the 8th round, I will start to kind of dabble a little bit, where you saw me kind of wait a little bit longer, started going more in the 10th round. This was more tackle heavy, so I started, more volume in terms of number of players in the linebacker position, so I felt like I could wait. And I've got a lot of guys that I like kind of in the middling rounds in DL, so I felt like I could fill out that part of my roster later on. But again, fill out the offensive side of the ball first, even add a little bit of depth, unless your league mates are going to go ahead and draft IDP early, in which case don't feel bad about grabbing you an anchor for a defensive lineman or linebacker, depending on the kind of size of your roster. The deeper they are, the more you can dabble in. I will often do kind of same kind of strategy that Rich was doing, where he'll do an offensive guy and a defensive guy. If you kind of feel like maybe you want to, like, there's still some good depth on the offensive side of the ball to kind of keep adding to, but you feel like you want to get some scoop up some top end IDPs as well. Don't feel bad for kind of doing that alternating kind of thing if it allows for it on your team. And the way you built your team, Rich, a little bit more balanced approach in the top half, it kind of allowed you that flexibility to kind of go back and forth, and you didn't feel the need to fill running back or a tight end position or grab a quarterback or something. You could still go grab a top end IDP. So again, I think, like I said, I think that's kind of the mindset we all kind of carry here in terms of IDP and when you want to draft them in your combined leagues. So don't feel like you got to be the first one to draft. I definitely would not advise being the one that cracks the seal. It's almost like a game of chicken in IDP. The way we kind of played is like, who's going to take it first and who's going to break that seal, and then everybody starts flooding in with IDPs. So runs start happening first, and then dabble in, pick your use some top end IDPs to anchor your roster out, and then as you get more comfortable with the IDP side of the ball, you can kind of be like Johnny and scoop more of that later round value up, just kind of knowing how things are going to play out and knowing that you're going to make moves in the season as well. So it just kind of depends on the kind of fantasy manager that you are, but generally that's kind of how we're going to treat IDPs when it comes to drafting them among offensive counterparts as well. So before we get out of the show here, I will kind of quickly my team, and we can add any parting thoughts through round 10 at least before we get into the second show. I think we left off with Chase Brown or George Kittle in round 5. At the 6-2, I took Joe Mixon, a volume guy for Houston. I don't think Nick Chubb doesn't really scare me off of Joe Mixon. Early on in the season last year, we saw him getting 20 plus touches a game and putting up some insane numbers. I mean, if we just look here, 24, 19, I mean, just insane fan production for the good first half of the year. I kind of fell off after the bye week where we kind of saw the team fall apart, a bunch of injuries, some offensive line injuries as well. Wide receivers were getting hampered up, and Nico Collins was about the only one healthy on the field outside of Joe Mixon. And then Joe Mixon even had some ankle injuries as well. So I think it was just a bunch of things went wrong for this offense. But I think, the only thing that really makes me worried about the Houston Texans is the fact that they haven't done much to the offensive in terms of adding some depth or some they traded away their best lineman and their left tackle and haven't really made so many additions to it. So that's the only caveat I have with a guy like Joe Mixon is just what kind of offensive line is he going to be running behind. And but it kind of seems like maybe the team feels more comfortable about the offensive line and their ability to maybe block for the run. They might be a little bit more run block team. The way this team is kind of shaping up, it seems to me as if they're not going to add depth to offensive line, then you got to figure that this team is going to go to a more, how do I want to say, like a high tempo offense. They're going to want to get the ball out quick because they know that CJ Stroud isn't going to have a lot of time in the pocket to kind of hang out and watch for plays develop. So I think we're going to see a lot of short and intermediate stuff here for Houston this year, but to me, the coaching staff obviously feels comfortable enough to roll out the kind of guys that they have. So, with that, we kind of have we have to have a little bit of faith in staff as well. And I think Joe Mixon getting everything right, getting healthy, I think he's going to have an opportunity to kind of take on some really nice volume and give me a floor play here. So then I took Jaylen Waddle and Calvin Ridley. There in the 7th and 8th round. Jaylen Waddle is another upside swing. I figured, fuck it, at this point, I'm already going balls to the wall with Christian McCaffrey and Travis Hunter. Why not throw another one in there with Jaylen Waddle? Jaylen Waddle, I know, Johnny, you're not hip on him. I wasn't going to take him early on. He kind of down where maybe I felt comfortable with the kind of upside that he can put up because in his first couple of years in the league, he was a wide receiver one pretty consistently. He was the guy that everybody was wanting. You couldn't get him for anything less than a couple of first round picks. And he still holds much of that value. You're not going to get him for anything less than maybe a back end first round pick in your dynasty leagues. So I think the value does lie within redraft where people are more concerned about this, single year kind of production as opposed to the kind of talent that he might present and that he could put together over the course of a career and inevitably things are going to go right at some point, right? So I just feel like maybe kind of what you were talking about earlier, or what I think we were talking about, just this offense. Yeah, Johnny, you were talking about everybody getting healthy and the offense just kind of getting back together. And if Tyreek Hill is going to essentially put up the kind of numbers where he's in an environment that he can be a wide receiver one, I don't see why Jaylen Waddle wouldn't be able to kind of be more of his upside as well. So I think with the offense, a healthy quarterback, Tua playing 17 games, I don't see why Jaylen Waddle wouldn't be a wide receiver two. And if I'm going to get him in the 7th and 8th round, I feel like that's a pretty good value, especially in my flex position there. And then turning around
and no Jonnu Smith, right?
No Jonnu Smith adds more volume too. I was kind of one that personally tempered expectations on Jonnu Smith. I didn't feel like he was going to get the kind of volume that he saw last year. I think because of the way everything played out was he was just it kind of worked in his favor. For the backup quarterback, tight end is often the kind of go-to guy for guys like that. Is just the short and intermediate passes are the easiest ones to make. So he kind of took up a lot of volume, and I figured, coming into this next season, I figured with a bunch of health, everybody kind of on a clean slate and Tua playing 17 games, I didn't anticipate that was the game plan to go into this season and give Jonnu Smith the team lead in targets again over Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle. So I had tempered expectations actually think that the move to Pittsburgh is kind of good for him, being a pass catcher on that team, where in Miami he would have been probably the third option if things were all going right. Again, things didn't go right last year. So I think if things go the way that McDaniels wants them to go, it would have probably been Jonnu Smith as third in the picking order. So he does kind of get a bump up for me. I wasn't really going to wasn't drafting him quite as high as I think a lot of people were. But anyways, we'll kind of go on through the rest of my team here, where I took Calvin Ridley in the 8th round, and he's kind of a guy. He's the only thing that Tennessee has. They've got the first overall pick and Cam Ward at quarterback, and we've seen Calvin Ridley put up wide receiver 1 numbers. On not necessarily more than once. He's actually done it, I guess. So I'm giving him a little more credit than maybe what he's due, but definitely a more than capable guy of soaking up the kind of volume that we think we can see in this Tennessee offense, where we just don't really have anybody else. I mean, they have a late round tight, I think, and maybe some iffy pieces at wide receiver, but essentially Calvin Ridley is not the kind of guy that's just going to be shut down by a corner, and he's going to inevitably get just a healthy amount of targets. And I got to figure that a guy like this, with the kind of upside that he's already put up on a week-to-week basis, that volume is going to turn into some nice fantasy production. And in the 8th round, I feel like the kind of upside he could put up, round 5, 4 numbers, even, I think, even in a worst-case scenario, in a best-case scenario, if he just completely is the kind of glue to Cam Ward kind of coming into the NFL, and they just kind of break off. If things go right, he could end up being a 3rd round kind of value. So, but again, that's kind of an upside swing. I think it's more likely maybe he remains kind of in that wide receiver 2 kind of mold in a good best case scenario. And I think here in the 8th round, that's probably a pretty good value here. So I think there's a pretty high upside there for Calvin Ridley to kind of make a resurgence this year with the kind of situation himself in. So then in the 9th round, took Patrick Mahomes, kind of a homer pick. I was actually surprised that Patrick Mahomes, often ranked in the top 10 quarterbacks, even fell to the 9th round in a 1-quarterback league. Maybe I don't ever see it because I'm drafting with a bunch of Chiefs fans, so he often goes well before the 9th round. So being able to scoop him up in the 9th, honestly, I felt like it was pretty good value, because he's a guy who's putting up, if we even look at last year, yes, he had an underperforming year compared to what we're used to, because we're so top 5 numbers from a guy like Patrick Mahomes, and this team had to change scheme last year to kind of fit their Super Bowl run. But nonetheless, we're still looking at 16, 15, 14. Lowest points on any week was 14 points. How many quarterbacks in the league will have 0 games below 14? Inevitably, there's going to be guys that drop below 10 here and there. Even the top guys will have an off game. Your Josh Allen's or somebody will get like 10, 9 points or something. But even Pat, albeit not a high upside guy, was still putting up a good 14 points for us. And I think for quarterback 1, having that kind of floor in the 9th round is a pretty good value, especially when you've got the kind of upside that Patrick Mahomes can put up on a week-to-week basis, and what we've seen on an entire year's basis, especially compared to guys that are going around him like Caleb Williams, who we haven't even seen anything out of him yet, Drake May, Kyler Murray, guys who went before him. Of course, Baker Mayfield had a career best year last year. Jalen Hurts kind of goes up and down. He's kind of pretty dependent on that run game. So, I think he easily put up the kind of numbers up here with Jalen Hurts, and he already has. He's put up those top 5 numbers where he could essentially give me the kind of return as if I would have taken him about 5 rounds before. So I felt like that was pretty decent value. Of course, I'm big on other guys as well, like J.J. McCarthy. Trevor Lawrence is kind of around this range, but I felt like Patrick Mahomes kind of stood out like a sore thumb to me with the kind of pool at quarterback right here. Then I rounded out with Fred Warner. I took my first IDP board here. I had to secure a top-end linebacker. I'm one that, I do like to fish in the waiver wire all year long for my linebackers, kind of sell them, whenever they start popping and start putting up production, sell them to teams that may be more linebacker needy, or pair them up and upgrade or something like that. But I do like to get an anchor. I like to get a stud at all of the positions if I can. Defensive back is more or less the one that I'm not really all that worried about getting a stud in any given draft, because there's so many guys that I feel good about their floor that even if I miss out on a stud, I can go get a Kevin Byard later on or something and feel good about the kind of points that he's going to put up for me. So, I do like to go in and get some of those stalwarts at your defensive line position or linebacker positions. But I've been a little more comfortable this offseason with my defensive line guys, and I feel like there's kind of several guys in the middling rounds that have the kind of upside to kind of hop into DL, high DL2, even potentially one territory. So I've been kind of waiting on defensive line so far in this offseason. But Johnny, we'll kind of kick it off to you first. Any quick thoughts before we round out the show here on the rest of my team before we get out?
I'll say this. I love the Kevin Byard shout out. I'll say that first. Love the Kevin Byard shout out on that train 100%. Sleeper right there for being, I think, 30 years old, now 31. Love that late round pick. So, yeah, I'm all about building my bench, as far as offense. You trade in the season, you're going to see much more return for those running backs, those wide receivers. Well, if you draft, your linebackers, your defensive line early, let people, because the thing is, they're probably thinking when it comes time for waivers, I'm set on linebackers, I'm set on defensive line. Then I come in and I scoop up all the good. Think about last year, Diane Henley, Zach Vaughn, those type of players. A couple defensive backs, Nick Cross, those type of players were waiver wire. Let everyone else, settle up there, be content, and I come back and just pop off and get the top guys anyway for free. So that's kind of my mindset. No disrespect how anyone else views it. It's nice to have Fred Warner's, Zach Vaughn's, those top dogs. Nothing wrong with that. That's just my opinion on it. As far as quarterback here, I think I did really well late. Patrick Mahomes in the 9th round is tremendous, no way around it. I think he has an actually better year than last year. So that's definitely a great round, late pick for a quarterback, nonetheless, Mahomes. So I like the way you picked, Axon. I like the way Richard picked. I like the way I picked. We had a nice example for the viewers and listeners. Like we said, well balanced. I mean, I went no wide receiver. I'm sorry, no quarterbacks, no IDPs yet. So stay tuned for the next episode, and I'll let you pick my brain. But I like the way we picked, and I'm sticking behind my no IDP. Let me go find the free agent waivers for free.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, before we kick it off out of here, I just want to tell everybody to go ahead and get those Fantasy Expo tickets. Johnny and Richard will both be at the Fantasy Expo this year. Go to thefantasyexpo.com and get your tickets. Book it now. It's in, a couple of weeks. If you're able to make that, it's a great time. There's so many good events you can be a part of, some live drafts you can jump in, some activities, some kind of parties people often, from what I will meet at certain places and just have a good time and chat it up with people from the community. Meet some of the people that you watch all their podcasts and listen into, and just kind of make some connections that way. And from what I understand, it's a good time. So maybe you guys can elaborate on that a little bit before we get out of here.
Definitely great time, man. Definitely great time. I mean, I met a lot of people. Actually, I'm doing a podcast that had 300, 250, 300 views. And one guy came up to me. He was like, "Hey, are you Johnny from IDP Trends?" I looked at him. I said, "How you know?" He's like, "I watch your show. I watch every show." I felt honored. So that's the type of thing type of event it is. People are coming from all over the world. We had guys from St. Louis, met guys from Denver, California. So you really don't ever get to really meet these people on Twitter. If you're just staying behind the Twitter wall. So for me, I'm in Pittsburgh. It was a short trip, and I'm going to go back for my second year and stay connected with these guys. Try to build my my social platform, and not only with IDP Plus, but with other guys from other companies too, and try to put IDP on the map. That's what my goal is. I'm a heavy IDP guy, so I love doing this mock with you guys, offense and IDP. That's most of the leagues I play in, and I had a great time at the Expo. Let's run it back and ask for my autograph. You'd be the first one. I'll give it to you at the Expo.
Yeah, same sentiment with the Expo. I had a great time a couple years ago again this year. I think Mace was in our draft. Mace
Riney.
Mace
Yep.
Riney, and I think I met Matt Harmon a couple years ago. That was exciting for me. I've been watching or tracking reception perception. Asked him a couple questions about how he does his stuff. So it's just really cool. Grab a beer and meet some of the people you watch on YouTube all the time, and kind of understand like their perspectives and what they see in the next year before the season starts.
Yeah, sometimes it's good to just get out there and network and ask questions, see how other people think, and maybe see what you can add to your own bag, and kind of make you a better fantasy manager as a result, and even just a better person, and make those connections. You never know what could come up with the next person you meet, what opportunity could lie ahead for both of you guys. So yeah, get your Fantasy Football Expo tickets. today. Book it, and hopefully you guys can make it and meet Johnny and Rich. But we're out of here for this episode. We will be right back with some more IDP centered kind of analysis on the rest of this mock in our next episode. So we'll see you guys in that one in just a bit.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.